I'm Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander's here. He's got Bear stuff on. What a weekend in Chicago. If you're watching on YouTube, be Brandon Davies. Smash. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the Eye on College Basketball podcast, please go ahead and do that wherever you subscribe to podcasts like Apple and Spotify. All right, let's get into it. I want to start with the CBS Sports Classic. It was a fun doubleheader this weekend in Atlanta. I was there. Terrific way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Wild finish between North Carolina and Ohio State. We're going to get to that in a minute. But first, let's focus on Kentucky and St. John's. Final score, Wildcats 78, Red Storm 66 inside what they call State Farm Arena. As I very seriously reported back in the preseason, as expected, Jayden Quaintance did make his debut for Kentucky. It came very early in the first half. He checked in and made an impact pretty quickly on both ends of the court. In summary, Jayden Quaintance and Jalen Lowe played together in Kentucky uniforms for the first time all season in the second half of Kentucky's game against St. John's, and the results were promising. Before I share with you some thoughts from State Farm, Norlander, just to the extent that you were able to see it, because I know you had a bunch of stuff going on. Let me ask you this. Do you feel more confident even today than you did last week when you predicted Kentucky would win the SEC despite some early season struggles?
A little bit, and that is we'll get to the results of the poll question in just a little bit. Our live YouTube poll question is, do you think Kentucky will be a top 3 team in the SEC this season? I'm curious to see what our live YouTube viewership brings back on that. A very, very happy start to the week of Christmas for Kentucky's fan base. By the way, if you think we're getting out of here without a little Bears talk, you're sadly mistaken. I'll work it in at some point here. I was extremely tempted, but it's not going to happen. I was extremely tempted to have Tom Fornelli just crash the start of this podcast because less than 15 minutes ago, the Bears were just given a berth to the NFL playoffs. So I'm riding very high right now. Kentucky fans feeling pretty good about this.
I will tell you, I'm obviously not emotionally invested in it like you are, but that was awesome. Dude, I got home from the airport just in time to see the very end, and that was awesome.
Woo, you know what? I'll save the Bears stuff for when we talk the Duke game because it's all interconnected on my end. So I went into Jersey on Saturday to do Houston, Arkansas. It's the Northeast, the Saturday before Christmas. Traffic, as expected, a nightmare. I gave myself more than enough time, but because of that, I was able to watch most of the Kentucky St. John's game at my house, but I had to leave before that game was done to ensure that I was in the building for Hogs and Cougars, well more than 30 minutes before that one tipped off. Quaintance, first of all, you have Lowe get into the game, and then he leaves. Was he on the floor for even 20 seconds? And in seven seconds, right? So in that moment, you're wondering, okay, you get one back and you lose another one. How bad is this going to be? Lo and behold, pun not intended, he gets on the floor. He comes back and he's an impactful player. He was obviously extremely efficient. And then Quaintance, just his return. I sent something out on this on Twitter. Quaintance just being on the floor. Yeah. And some of this has to do with St. John's. We got to talk Johnny's as well. It just changes the way Kentucky plays. That was coming through the TV set. I know you felt that in the building with all the Kentucky fans in Catlanta. So we can have a little bit of both here. It doesn't mean everything. No, quite obviously it doesn't, because St. John's has severe issues. But Kentucky fans deserve this. Give them this. They were able to beat Indiana. They get JQ back. He doesn't start. Had himself one heck of a performance regardless of that. Goes for he had 10 points, 8 rebounds in 18 minutes in some somewhat limited action. And he may well be best served as a reserve, or if he wants to bust into the starting lineup sooner than later, that won't surprise me at all. So they neutralized St. John's. They even got just stuff like Otega Owe, who was overshadowed because of the other two players. He had 20 points in this game. He had 3 blocks, 3 steals, had a really nice performance overall. So yes, I think there is real optimism that Kentucky can be much closer to what we thought it would be in the preseason versus what it had been for the majority of the first 6 weeks. A very good Saturday for that fan base. A lot of teams, a lot of fan bases are coming out of the weekend feeling nice about their Christmas and their seasons overall. I think Kentucky feels about as good as anyone that put on a show over the past 3 days.
So it was interesting. Jalen Lowe checked into the game before Jayden Quaintance checked into the game. And then Jalen Lowe checked out of the game 7 seconds later before Jayden Quaintance even got in. So they did not appear on the court together until I believe there was 16:07 left in the second half. And this is sort of what my column was on. It was mostly about the presence of Jayden Quaintance, Jalen Lowe, and Mohamed Diabate, who had not appeared on the court together until the second half of the St. John's game, but can reasonably be called, and push back if you want to. But that's the best point guard. That's the best 4. That's the best 5 on the team.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. So the first time the best 1, 4, and 5 for Kentucky ever got onto the floor this entire season was with 16:07 left in the St. John's game. When they are on the floor and it's like, take a picture, that's them for the first time together. 16:07 left, and they're down 40-33. Or rather, I've got the numbers everywhere here. Either way, here's what I'm trying to tell you. UK from that point forward at 16:07 outscored St. John's 45-26. They just absolutely flipped it, and Lowe was the biggest part of it. Now, the issue with his shoulder doesn't appear to be going away. Like even Mark Pope after the game, and it was hilarious. Like 6 men walk into the press room to represent the University of Kentucky. It is Mark Pope, Jayden Quaintance, Jalen Lowe, and 3 like people who they labeled responsible for getting people back on the court. They're the real MVPs, as Kevin Durant might say. So they're all in there, and Mark's like, listen, Jalen, he's been working hard. He's going to fight through this. But the implication was what you saw happen in the first half where he got popped and had to leave, that could happen at any moment. And so this is going to be delicate, it appears. But when they're on the court together, they looked like the type of team that most of us had ranked in the top 10 in the preseason. And you're exactly right about Quaintance, just his presence. It was interesting because you get to an arena, you're there. I did like a 10:30 a.m. hit with Jenny Dell. So I got like 2 hours before tip-off. So you're just talking to people and catch it. It's just nice to see people because I don't get into arenas as much as I used to. And it was interesting that I never had one person say to me, oh, JQ's looked great in practice, or man, you're not going to believe what you see, or he's better than ever. It was sort of like cautious optimism. Like we're just glad to have him back. And but when he checked in, if there was rust there wasn't much of it. He looked healthy. He looked dynamic. He looked bouncy. And you know what else he did? He made St. John's look small, particularly Zuby. I mean, there were times early where he was just his hands up here and Zuby's can't get up there. And that's a problem. And so I thought they looked great. I understand a little bit of the pushback to my column. Hey, St. John's stinks, GP. Just because you thought they were going to be good doesn't mean they're actually good. And who cares if you beat St. John's? But in the second half against St. John's, I think we saw what is possible with Kentucky, and it looked good to me.
Yeah, even just small things here. Cam Williams had, one of his best overall games in a Kentucky uniform. Obviously, they just, Malachi Marino showed up. He was really the first guy that made like a real play of impact to start the game. It was good to see and a good time for Kentucky. We'll see if it has real staying power and if it's an omen for the better. They played 6 notable non-conference opponents. They went 2-4, but the 2 wins are the 2 most recent games: IU in Rupp, and then St. John's in Atlanta. Next game of note, Alabama, after we get to 26. For St. John's, I said on the Friday show, of all the 4 teams in the CBS Sports Classic, the most urgency, the most at stake for me was St. John's. It's now 7-4. It's got 1 quad 1 win over a Baylor team. We'll even see what Baylor is. After that, the Ole Miss Rebels at the Garden. Okay? Chris Beard's team's not going to the NCAA tournament, folks. They weren't competitive earlier on Sunday against NC State. So St. John's can get it together to the point where it's going to be a top 3 team in the Big East. Yeah, sure. That's on the table. But it's completely fair to point out that Kentucky getting itself right in the short term came at the expense of a St. John's team that, with all the motivation necessary to show up and really show out, didn't happen. Just totally neutralized. Both teams were as expected. I was wondering if St. John's might be able to get off a decent day from beyond the 3-point arc. Didn't happen. They were 5-19. Teams combined, they were like 9-36 from 3. They're not good 3-point shooting teams in general, but that lack of a 3-point threat also hindered them overall. Zuby Ejiofor had an okay game. He wasn't a standout there. Ian Jackson just doesn't. You need another gear or two from him. Not happening. Osiah Sellers, Sannon, Mitchell, all of it just not impactful. And so St. John's has certainly jumped above Kentucky among the most disappointing teams in the country. I wouldn't say it's the most disappointing, but it's not going the way that we expected.
It is for me. It is for me.
Well, maybe they they are the most disappointing team. Literally it is. You had them at number one, but some weird stuff happening in the Big East. We'll get to more of that before we get out of the show. But I was thinking that we'd get a better overall showing from St. John's. It just didn't happen.
It was a fascinating post-game press conference from Rick Pitino because he was like, listen, we're a mediocre team, nothing more. And he would get questions like, how disappointed are you? And he would say things like, it's not my job to be disappointed. It's my job to get this team better. So I'm going to wake up tomorrow and just do my job. But he seemed to, and you don't usually hear coaches talk this way, particularly coaches who had preseason, top 5, 10 teams. And he was like, we can be good, but he didn't say great. He didn't say elite. He didn't say special. He was like, we're mediocre right now and we can be good, but there is nothing. And this is like an actual quote. There's nothing we can do about the point guard situation.
Well, if that's the case, then St. John's is broken and it can't be fixed. If they can't do that, then they have a very hard ceiling. They can overachieve in the micro. Rick Pitino's an amazing coach. They've got really good athletes. They've got a fantastic big man. Maybe they can peel off 1 or 2 really nice wins in Big East play, but that means that all of the hype for St. John's was not justified and that this team isn't capable of winning more than 25 games, of making a deep run in the NCAA tournament, or having a 1, 2, 3, 4, probably not even a 5 next to its name on Selection Sunday.
Now, I will say and should say, like sometimes Rick gets caught up in the moment. Like he signs Ian Jackson and it's like, this is the greatest point guard we ever going to have. And then, he loses to Kentucky, gets blown out in the second half. And it's like, there's nothing we can do. I've got a mediocre team and there's no point guard fix coming. He was like, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't have like Kentucky has had the idea of Jalen Lowe getting healthy and changing their team. I don't really have that. And you and I talked about that on Friday. He sort of said, listen, I recruited Dylan Darling to be a backup because that's what he is. That was the implication. And he, I think for the first time, said we missed on 4-point guard targets. I don't know if that's a new one or it's the first time I'd ever heard it, but he was like, we missed on our top 4-point guard targets. I don't know what you want me to tell you. And as a staff, we failed. As a staff, we failed. But there's nothing.
I don't know if you get to say you missed on your top 4 targets when you're St. John's, and it's widely acknowledged that you were sitting at the big boy table when it came to NIL. Not the number 1, not the number 2, not the number 3 price tag roster, but you weren't 10 and you weren't 15 and you sure as hell weren't 20.
I mean, what's hilarious is that, there's a scenario where RJ Lewis, the reigning Big East player of the year, is just your, Yeah,
that's a dangling thread. I mean, that's all water well past the bridge at this point, and RJ's not in the league. What could have been, but both sides said they were fine with the sever. It wasn't ill-intentioned. Everything, it was washed their hands clean. They just understood he wanted to choose that, but can't tell me St. John's wouldn't be a better team if RJ Lewis was on this roster right now.
I agree completely. I thought that whole thing was weird. Just how he handled it, how they handled it. Both sides, I thought, probably cut off their nose a little bit to spite their face. So whether they really missed on the 4-point guard targets that they wanted and then just got stuck here, because that can happen to teams. But to your point, they had plenty of money. Or if they just miscalculated and said, we're going to try to play it in an unconventional way, because you can do that in the NBA. The Grizzlies have been doing it for 3 weeks. San Antonio tried it last season. Every night in the NBA, you'll look up and there'll be a non-point guard lineup on the court at some point. But you want to know why they can do it? Because they're professional basketball players. These guys are really good. Even the guys you think can't really dribble and shoot can at least get you into an offense. And so it's just much easier to play without a, quote, point guard in the NBA. As backwards as that might sound to somebody, you need a point guard in college, and it's less important in the NBA. It's the same principle, I think, of why you can press in college but don't really press in the NBA too much, because the players are too good. They'll just boom, 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 layup, boom, 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 dunk, dribble, pass, dunk. In college, Bob Huggins told me this one time, when they went from a traditional defense to press Virginia. I was like, what makes this work? He said, I make it work. I was like, expand on that. He said, I watch film. He said, every basketball team at this level, just about, is going to have one dude that doesn't need to have the ball in his hands ever. So it's my job to watch film, find him, and then do things to get the ball in his hands and then take it from him. And like in the NBA, that guy's not on the court usually, but in college often is. And so I think it's just a miscalculation. You can get away with it at the professional level, at least in the NBA, but in college, I'd still rather have if I'm going to try to have a top 10 team, I wouldn't mind having a top 10 point guard.
I hear you. We can keep moving. There's plenty to talk about, and I want to get to the other game that you saw in Atlanta. I know you were filing off the first game. Carolina is 11-1. Interestingly enough, UNC is 11-1. Still sits at 22 in Ken Palm. That obviously still bakes in preseason priors. That's why most Heels fans, they know the deal at this point. But it is surprising nonetheless that they are there. Some of that is a function of obviously the win margins they've had to this point. They win 71-70 over Ohio State. Credit to the Buckeyes, genuinely. They gave a real earnest push, no depth, no bench scoring at all. A bagel for the Buckeyes in bench scoring. This was like, I'm on the road. Well, at this point, for almost all of this game, I'm on the road watching this, mostly listening to it, but bring it up on the old YouTube TV app on the phone and listen to the play-by-play with all of this. And Caleb Wilson, impact obvious, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, including the clinching block that didn't allow Ohio State to get the ball off and get it done there. So I might have mentioned this on the Friday show. If I didn't, I know I mentioned on HQ heading into the weekend. Carolina hasn't gone with 11 wins in its first 12 games since it won the title in 08-09. So best start through the non-conference and up to Christmas portion of the season in 16, 17 years. Really, really impressive. They are a top 10 team in my estimation. Their lone loss is by 16 to Michigan State on Thanksgiving, but Wilson, top 3 freshman, averaging 19.5 points, 10.8 rebounds, 55% from the field. He had himself a really nice night, and with Ohio State now turns the calendar to 2026. Still does not have a quad 1 win. Next chance will come at home against Nebraska on January 5th. So jury's still out on Ohio State. They had an opportunity. They couldn't get it done. Credit to Hubert Davis and his crew. They get Seth Trimble back. He goes they get him back and he is good to go. He plays 36 minutes coming back from the arm issue. And his inclusion, I think, was actually critical to Carolina winning the game. What do you make of what the Heels and Buckeyes put on display in Atlanta Saturday afternoon?
So as you know, the way these things go, or at least the way they sometimes go, the way that went for me on Saturday is I knew before I walked into the arena, I am writing a column off of the first game. And if something interesting happens in the second game, that can lead Sunday morning's top 25 and 1. So Kentucky beats St. John's. I go to all the press conferences, talk to all the people, and then you're just sort of buried in your computer. You're re-listening to press conferences. You're trying to write 1,000 words, whatever. And loosely paying attention to what's happening in front of you. But then it gets late, and it's like, all right, computer closed. I'm going courtside. Let's watch this. The final 48 seconds were wild. You had a 4-point play in the final 48 seconds, a 4-point play, a goofy turnover, and then a lost dribble in the paint that resulted in a game-winning dunk. We don't have to spend much time other than that, but I do know that every time North Carolina is struggling under Hubert Davis, people can't wait to talk about it. So it's important to point out that he's not struggling at all. Caleb Wilson, 20-15, and a game 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 and a.
Okay, that must be. I assume that was GP's bad and not mine. I think we're okay. GP's gonna have to log back on.
A games and a games and a games and a.
Parrish, log back off.
A games and a games and.
All right, yeah. That's a new one. Oh man, that's so good. Do not, Devo, who's doing our podcast producing, he's our pod boss. Do not edit that in post. I want that for everyone to enjoy. Yeah, we had a nice little remix there. That's our first remix on the show. See, sometimes we use a program called StreamYard, and every so often there will be some sort of technical glitch, but it's almost impossible for us to know when it's happening in the moment, whether it's Parrish or me. So I didn't know if I was just hearing it and no one else was, but that's why we love our YouTube chat. It is making it happen right here, right now. And you guys are really funny with some of these. Some of these comments are just tremendous. I expect GP back in the show in the next 5 to 45 seconds here. Carolina, they get the job done. It's another really nice win. I'll just tag something that he was mentioning. Hubert Davis has just about coached himself off of the hot seat. It would take an implosion that is just not going to happen. Caleb Wilson is entirely too talented to let that happen. And what they've built around him is really impressive. Carolina famously spent plenty of money, well north of $10 million on a roster, and it's been able to build up something to be really proud of. I think Carolina's got the overall capability to push in the ACC. I think that was evidenced also by what we saw happen at Madison Square Garden, and we're going to get to that in just a second there. But for Ohio State, it was a well-rounded attack. You gave it a good push, but these are the kind of wins that when they're within your grasp and they're so clearly quad one wins against probable top 15, you can even, I'm not going to undersell them, but if you even want to undersell and be conservative with Carolina and say it's a top 20 team, not a top 15 or top 10 team, not getting this, you just put that much pressure on you in league play where it's already really, really difficult to do. So we'll see what happens there. Parrish is still not back. I assume I'm not going to solo this the rest of the way. We need to talk about Duke versus Texas Tech. So let's get a word from our partners, and then we'll all find out together if Parrish is going to be back right after this break or if I'm going to still keep going until he joins me. But here's a quick word from our partners.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
All right, it's still me. It's still me. Hey, live show. What do you want from me? Could I get Fornelli on the podcast right now and turn this into a Chicago Bears reaction show? I could, but I won't. I know a very small portion of our audience actually cares about the Bears, but I do appreciate the notes. People know just how much of a big-time Bears fan I am, and this is a very, very special day. So GP apparently is loading up in the on-deck circle. Hopefully he can be back here in just a second. Let's get to what happened in Manhattan on late Saturday night. And this actually does factor in with the Bears. So I go and cover Houston, Arkansas. We're going to get to that in just a few. But I go to the game, and GP is back. And we'll get to just a second. So we've moved on to Duke versus Texas Tech. I watch and listen to that game on my ride back from Newark up to Connecticut. Now, Dan Schulman, who is I take a chance. I turned my phone off because I wanted to watch the Bears game from the start on a delay in my house. So I'm on Do Not Disturb. No one can bother me. But I take a chance because Schulman's a Packers fan, and I don't think that he would mention another game that's airing on another network live. But I'm like, if anyone's going to spoil it, it's going to be this dude. I'm going to trust him not to do it. He didn't do it. So I'm watching Duke, Texas Tech the whole time. And Duke's out in front. They're in command of this. Texas Tech is a mash unit. They have 3 players who can't play. They get into foul trouble. They almost had Toppin with I think it was going to be his third, and then they went to a monitor review that seemed to take 10 minutes, but they did deduce that Gongva, I know GP was traveling during this as well, he had done the hook and hold, so he gets a flagrant one. Toppin gets the foul taken away, which wound up being massive, and then Duke gives away the game. And I know Duke fans, the one that you lost against Houston is way more painful for extremely obvious reasons. This one's the most inexplicable. Houston does that to teams. Like, that was a stunner. It ended Cooper Flagg's career. I get that. Duke had not lost a game by 17 or more points after having that lead since 2007. So I get home to my house just a couple minutes after 10. Duke's up by like 12, 14. I figure they have it in the bag, and I'm so eager to watch the Bears. I said, okay, Duke's got this. So, but I keep my phone on Do Not Disturb, GP, for the entire night because I don't want to get spoiled by the Bears game. I'm watching delayed. Bears come back. They win. The most cathartic regular season win of my adult life. And it's not close, frankly. So I'm going nuts, all this stuff. And then some point in the ensuing 5 to 15 minutes after I know the end of the game and I go and check my phone and I got like 35 text messages, I see that Duke lost. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they lost up by 17 at the Garden. Tech can barely put 5 players on the floor. And then I went and at like 2:15 last night, GP, I go and I rewatch the end of this game. Chris Anderson, I know he gets called Christian. I'm just saying, when we did a Big 12 Media Day, he said, call me Chris. So on this podcast, he's Chris Anderson. He goes off. He was awesome. Hit a couple of massive shots. Duke kept missing foul shots. They finished the game 17 of 29 from the foul line. It's a one-game result, so I'm not going to overreact to it. But I do think this is the worst loss of Shire's career so far. You blow it in this kind of style after you had that lead. Boozer has another beastly game. I throw it back to you, hoping that your mic is all good. I've been vamping here for about 7 straight minutes, but thoughts on Duke and Tech and everything attached to it, because this to me was genuinely stunning. Duke almost never loses a game the way that it did here on Saturday night.
Well, the last time it lost a game exactly like it did on Saturday night. Are we on the wrong mic?
You're on a different mic now. I can adjust to it, but
I don't think my board's working.
Okay,
Debo should take me out of this until we should get my board working.
Well, listen, I am fine. I would rather have you than not have you. So let's just have you keep going and give me all you got on Duke and Tech.
Well, I mean, that was sort of a flippant remark, the way I put it, but it is true that Duke was up 17 points with 16-17 remaining against Texas Tech and lost. And before that, the last time Duke had lost a game, up 14 points with 8:03 remaining against Houston in the Final Four. So Duke's past 2 losses are both pretty sizable second half collapses. I don't know what to make of that other than it's just like some true stuff. I don't know that you can really draw anything from it, but if you want to, go ahead.
It's free throw variance. It's Anderson going nuts. 27 points, even with 5 turnovers. Toppin goes for 19. Lawan Watts fouled out, but still contributed 20 points there. It's as much about Tech. It really is in this spot. That is a mammoth win for Texas Tech to get it in that. No one was expecting them to win that game. You got Garden at capacity. Duke's taking over the building. You're Texas Tech. You've had opportunities against big-time opponents this season. Haven't been able to get it done. You get it done here. You win by 1. I think it alters the past weeks for Tech overall to get this win the way that they did. For Duke, okay, you're 11-1, knocked from the ranks of the unbeatens. It is a stunner to see that. And I'm not going to overreact to the fact that Isaiah Evans was not much of a factor. Like Dame Sarr, he contributed I think all of his threes were in the first half of this game. Caleb Foster, what do you give him? 8 points, 3 boards, 4 fouls, not quite as impactful. Malik Brown was a menace. Caden Boozer played well. Duke just had it, and I'm not going to say it played with its food, but you don't typically see them blow games like this, and it's specifically because Texas Tech wasn't loaded up. They played 8 players, but like Nolan Groves barely plays. He got 13 minutes in this game, didn't score a point, but afterward, McCaslin specifically pointed him out because I think individually, and I hate individual plus minus, I think it can be very misleading, but he was like plus 13 and good, just really good win for Tech. I think this is one of the most surprising results when you actually take into account what was happening in the game and how just chipping away. And now for Duke fans, it's 2 stunning losses in 2025 in very different ways. The Final Four one doesn't even compare. It's on a much higher percentage, but crazy win probability here for both Duke and the Packers on Saturday night. So just a nutso the way that whole thing transpired at the Garden. Good on Tech, and now Duke 11-1 as it prepares for ACC play.
Will you tell me what's going on? Will you tell me what happened to me? I'm the only person here right now that doesn't know what happened to me.
So hold on. You don't know why you had to log off the show and what happened?
I looked at the chat and I gathered like I was glitching or something.
You were. Buddy,
I was cooking.
You were cooking, then you were glitching. Someone was saying someone was saying what was the I don't know the phrase that was happening when you were glitching, but it kept I don't know what it was, but it kept repeating and like this. That's what it was, like that. And so the entire chat lost its mind. It was hilarious. Someone is saying the word Agason. I don't know. Agason. I don't know what you were saying, but the chat has spoken. It was Agason. and it just kept glitching over and over like 27 times in a row. We had to kick you out of the club.
Well, I think it blew up my board. All right, because now it won't even show up in my computer. It won't even show up as an option. Why does this always happen to me? I get you can blame me for lots of stuff, but you were watching me. I'm just sitting here. I didn't do any. I didn't touch any of that. I'm just sitting here. And now I sound like one of my kids because they never do anything either. They're always just sitting there. They never do nothing. And I know that's what I sound like. But this ain't my fault. But I feel responsible. But it's really not my fault.
It's not your fault, okay? I'm Robin Williams. You're Matt Damon. I got the Robin Williams Good Will Hunting beard going on right now. It's not your fault. You don't need to emotionally break down on the podcast right now. I'm begging you not to, but I just need you to know.
I am very flustered, probably even more than I'm showing. I'm real mad right now.
It's not.
I mean, you guys get not to pull back the curtain, but you spend hours in an afternoon prepping for this, getting ready for this, and then it just very flustered.
Just roll with the punches. This is one heck of a. Hey, I have good news for the audience and for GP. Our next show, provided Parrish's equipment works, it will be a pre-tape one. We are doing a big mailbag show, and it will be pre-tape. It will not be live. So if we have an issue like this, the good news is we won't have to deal with it in real time and live. So GP has booted off, and he's going to try and reset. Debo, you want to hop in here real quick? Our producer, our pod boss, doing a wonderful job stepping in for Josh here. You got any thoughts on what's going on in real time?
How do I sound?
You sound wonderful to me.
Better than Gary. We're texting, calling, trying to figure this out. He does not sound good. I don't think I would listen to a full show with Gary sounding like he does. So I want you to take the sticks for a little bit, and we're going to get this sorted out.
Okay, this is a first one. We've had issues here on live streams where we've had technical stuff. We've actually had a couple where we went on CBS Sports Network. I remember once we did a CBS Sports Network show. This is within the past 2 seasons, and no exaggeration, within 30 seconds of us going live on national television, they had to kick Parrish off, and I was suddenly monologuing through the first segment of the show. I remember he came back for the B block, and we were good to go. So we've dealt with this before. Folks, you think I can't cook? You think I can't carry the rest of this? I got you. No worries. Debo, let's take another break. Word from our partners, and then I'll do the weekend whip around, and I'll get to the game that I was at on Saturday with Houston playing against Arkansas. But first, quick note, and I'll be right back.
This isn't just combat. It's cinema.
Ready or not, here I come. Let's go! Are you not entertained?
The new home of UFC, Paramount Plus.
All right. C block. Norlander solo. Let's go. Have I told you the Bears are in the playoffs? Just kidding. We'll keep it moving. I was in Jersey on Saturday to see Houston take on Arkansas. It was a ranked-on-ranked matchup, and I was particularly intrigued to see if Arkansas was going to be able to meet Houston from a physicality standpoint. Well, a funny thing happened on the way to the Prudential Center. Houston wound up playing its highest possession game in 2.5 seasons. 73 possessions. Houston wins 94-85. They cracked the game open in the first half where Arkansas, I'm not going to say went asleep at the wheel because a lot of this was Houston and it was really forcing the issue in a really positive way, but it goes on a 15-0 run. It gets up to 41-19 at one point, and credit to Arkansas for not just tapping out, saying, that's it, we're heading home for Christmas. From that point on, they actually did play them level. They played them even. I wrote a column afterward, of course, about the Houston angle of it, and I'll get to that in just a second. But on the Arkansas end, it was an opportunity. It was a game for the Razorbacks, in my estimation, and with all credit to Vanderbilt, which didn't mess around at all whatsoever against Wake Forest. That's later in the show. We'll see if GP comes back. I won't try and jump ahead too much. But Vandy, best team in the SEC right now. That's where they're at. I thought Arkansas could take that claim if it could beat Houston in this spot. Wasn't able to do it. Darius Acuff looked really nice. He might have had his best overall game in a college uniform, considering he's only played 12 games so far with the Hogs. He was really good. Malik Ewan came off the bench and had himself a nice night, 20 points. But Arkansas sits at 9-3, lost by 3 at Michigan State, lost by 9 against Duke in Chicago on Thanksgiving, and then they were just consistently at arm's length against Houston on Saturday. The good wins are Louisville and Texas Tech. They've got James Madison after Christmas before New Year's, and then we get into SEC play, and that's going to open at home against Tennessee, at Mississippi, at Auburn. We'll see how it goes from there. Calipari's got a really talented team. I think Arkansas is going to pick off some really nice wins over the course of the next 2.5 months, but it probably is going to be susceptible to some upsets in league play. And an SEC overall that is undeniably down from what it has been. Keep an eye on that. I will have something about the SEC in my court report, which I think we're going to publish early on Christmas Eve, if not late Tuesday at cbssports.com. The Houston end of this, Cougars, national title contenders. Again, 11-1 right now, only loss by 3 to Tennessee at Players Era. I saw it in person. Kelvin Sampson has himself a squad. And I opened the column by essentially saying, like, how many teams could get within one possession of winning the national title, return 3 key starting pieces from that team, get to the first 11 games of the season, be 10-1, be ranked in the top 10, and still floating on the outskirts of the radar? It's only Houston. And maybe it's just because of the way they play. I don't know exactly why. I see GP is back. Hopefully his mic will sound good. Give me 1 second to finish this thought, GP. But Kelvin Sampson doesn't seem to be offended by it. It's just kind of where they are. It's how they get treated. My column was, they can be better than they were last season. They have Kingston Flemings. They typically haven't had one and done talent. Flemings gets better by the game. And I was so impressed by the nature of what they did. Scored 94. They're most against a ranked opponent in like 15 years. And they didn't mess around. They got it done. Flew home. Merry Christmas. Celebrate. Reconvene in 6 days. Mighty impressed by the Cougs. GP is back. Talk to me, buddy.
How do I sound?
You sound wonderful. I sound absolutely beautiful right now.
Credit to Debo. He's the technician around here. You know what he said? Just try rebooting your computer.
Wouldn't you know it?
That's all it took.
Turn it off and turn it back on.
Turn it off and turn it back on. But I didn't think I was going to have to do that in the middle of the show. Anyway, I'm less flustered now than I was. Tell me what we're talking about. I'll try to say something.
We are talking everything Houston. Now, keep in mind, Parrish, I know you were, for this of our audience, I know that you also caught a flight and you were going home. So I don't know how much you did or did not see of Houston, Arkansas. I gave you basically everything on that game. Give me what you got on that, and then we'll continue the whip around. That's where we started the C block.
Okay. Yeah, I did the doubleheader in Atlanta and then hopped on a plane in the spirit of, I just got my wrap up from Marriott. You know, you get a Spotify wrap and a YouTube wrap. I
haven't checked that yet. And I got bones to pick with the Bonvoy. I got two nights that haven't been added and they need to be added. So thank you for reminding me of that. But I didn't realize, is everyone doing it? This doesn't need to be a thing in our culture. Let's keep it moving. Okay, we're already delayed. Doesn't need to be a thing in our culture. Not every single app needs a wrapped on December 17th. Continue.
I agree. I will tell you, as a longtime Bonvoy member, they're very good at recrediting you when they miss something. So they'll handle that for you.
Right, I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Yeah, don't be stressed about it. Yeah, they'll have it fixed in 3 hours. They'll say it'll take 10 business days, but it'll be fixed in 3 hours. So in the spirit of like, oh man, I got to clean this up a little bit. I was going to try to sleep in my own bed last night. And Atlanta's like the one place in the world you can get to Memphis pretty quickly from. So I flew home in the night and I was following everything as best I could, on phones and laptops and whatever. I will say, just because I don't know what you said, let me just focus on Kingston Flemings for a second.
Sure.
21.6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. He's been great and even greater than anybody anticipated. I was thinking through this earlier, and I know that all these players were never going to be on this team at the same time. I got it. But I went back and looked at the top 25-1, it's like April 9th or something like that. It's early April, right after the championship game. And I moved to Houston to number 1. And it was when they had signed Pop Isaacs. And at that point, there was a projected roster of Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, Terrence Arsenault, Pop Isaacs, Kingston Flemings. 5 guards. If I would have just asked all of your favorite college basketball podcasters that day, rank these 5 guards in order about how they'll be at Houston next season, if they're all at Houston next season, where do you think Kingston Flemings would have been ranked by most?
I think 5th is fair.
Probably. That's my point. And on paper,
he might be the most important player on the team.
He's the best.
Yep.
He's the best. He was just on pit. Now, I bet you Kelvin was more comfortable with him than we were because he saw it every day. But unless you were in the gym, you were not going to anticipate this. He has gone from, at one point, probably in most people's mind, being the 5th most important guard on Houston's projected roster for next season to he's probably their best right now. And because when you're at a doubleheader, at an easy place to get to, it was filled with NBA people. The CBS Sports Classic was. And they happened to sit near the media. So, here's NBA scouts. Got to see Murray Bartow, former
nice.
I know. I just bumped into Murray, just walking to the bathroom. So it was nice to see him. He was there scouting. And so whenever you're around these people, you get into, hey, how the kids? How's your family? And then it's like, so what do you think about Jayden Quaintance? You get into those little conversations. And with Kingston Flemings, every time because this is actually, I was talking to an NBA person, and this is how the conversation, oh, I didn't know you'd be in here. I just saw you in New York the other night. I was like, yeah, Norlander's going to Newark for that game, and I decided to pop down here to Atlanta. Easy trip for me. And he was like, oh, in Newark, who's there? And I was like, yeah, Arkansas and Houston. And I was like, oh, Kingston Flemings. You seen Kingston Flemings? And this was what was said immediately about top 10 pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at with him now. And so we thought Houston was going to be awesome when we really didn't even factor in that Kingston Flemings was going to be a big part of it, or maybe the most important part of it, or a projected top 10 pick. So take a Kelvin Sampson team with all that experience, all that culture, all that toughness, and then throw a top 10 pick on top of it. Well, now you got something.
And it just makes the top of the Big 12 even stronger. We'll get to that, no doubt about it, once we get into the early part of it. We've talked about it previously, but once we get into league play, even more so. But Houston, right there with Arizona, Iowa State, BYU. AJ DeBanza might have had the dunk of the season, if not top 3 Friday night. That was insane. We wait and see on Kansas. Texas Tech just did what it did. Big 12 is looking really, really, really good. We can keep the whip around moving here. A quick mention, I guess. Arizona beat San Diego State 68-45. That was a close game early, and then Zona just pulled away. So, as to be expected, they'll hold on to the number 1 ranking in the AP Top 25 when that refreshes on Monday. Purdue beat Auburn, wasn't close. Purdue, just these top 10 teams just feels as strong as the top 10s we've had in quite a bit here. I think I might write on that for later this week in the court report as well. Auburn, you got to go and you got to play in Purdue's home state, and you've had a really tough non-con. You hope you have enough in the tank, and you just got completely outclassed there. And there's not a ton to take away from that. Purdue, non-con play is done. Purdue's about what we thought it would be, and that's, one of the 5 or so best teams in the country with more competition than we expected. Parrish, Arizona, right now, best resume in college hoops, and didn't mess around with San Diego State whatsoever in the second half.
In the second half, yeah, they were down 8 early, up 1 at the half, and then just pulled away. 40-minute game and all that stuff. Outscored them 40-18 in the final 20 minutes, won by 23 to improve to 11-0. San Diego State, 26% from the field in the game, just 7% from 3. On Purdue, the Purdue-Auburn game, Auburn there's only 2 teams in the country that have played 4 games so far against top 25 teams. It's Auburn and Oakland. Wild combination.
Good nugget.
And Auburn has wins over St. John's and NC State. You can say those aren't great, but they're notable. The losses are to Michigan, Houston, Arizona, Purdue, so the teams that are 1, 2, 5, and 9 at KenPom.
Yeah.
They lost to each one of them. And the past 3 have been by an average of 29 points. So they've got some decent wins. They've got no bad losses in terms of that falls in quad 3, quad 4, but they got some really lopsided quality losses. Their quality losses by 30.
Yeah. We'll see if that breaks their spirit at all, or if they're stronger in the SEC for it. It's going to be a number of weeks before we know. I do think that is a tournament team. In the SEC, I mentioned this, I think, before you hopped back on. Vandy's the best team in the SEC. Arkansas had the chance to make that claim. I mentioned this late on the Friday pod. Wake Forest, you had them. It wasn't even like this random thing where you're playing in Raleigh or Greensboro. They were in your building, and you got smoked. The final score was 98-67, and Vandy was up 33 at one point in this game. Commodores I know the schedule hasn't been the most difficult. I get that, but if you're actually dialing into what they're doing. They're 12-0 at this point. They have the best record along with Iowa State and Miami University, the Redhawks. Those are your 12-0 teams right now in the country. Michigan and Arizona are really good. They just haven't gotten to 12-0 yet. But Vandy, absent of having a top 40 win, a top 30 win, I get that. They're going to have their opportunities in SEC play. No takeaways from the game other than Steve Forbes is on the hot seat. You completely blew it. This is so dispiriting for Wake Forest. And Vandy, rightfully so, best team in the SEC as we get ready to turn to January.
Nobody can beat them, or at least nobody has yet. My Tigers are the only team that's taken them to overtime.
Yeah, that just happened last week. Yeah, Memphis took it. They couldn't get it done. Now Memphis' season is.
So I don't want to say I always struggle with these teams, but these are difficult ones for me to figure out. Off the top 25 in radar in the preseason, but now the efficiency numbers are incredible. 0 in the loss column.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but 0, as you noted, 0 wins against top 30 teams. Got taken to overtime by a Memphis team that is not very good. Like I'm with you. Vanderbilt's good. I'm not debating that. I'm not here to make the counterpoint about Vanderbilt. I'm just saying I would love the 12-0 with like a top 15 win, as opposed to the 12-0 sans a top 30 win.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they'll be the best team on March 5th in that league. They're the best team in the SEC right now. I just don't think that's arguable. They just don't have enough heft in the resume. So Wake Forest loses. Steve Forbes, hot seat season, not good. Same is true of Wes Miller at Cincinnati. They couldn't get it done against Clemson. They lost on Sunday. That's one to keep an eye on there. And then no hot seat situation, but another team like Wake Forest entered the season with reasonable expectations to finally break through and make the NCAA tournament. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Cincinnati, same thing. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. The Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah.
I mean, Beard has had some pointed comments for his team already this season. And so did Will Wade. And guess what? His guys responded. 76-62 in Greensboro. And so now Ole Miss is 7-5. The best win is against Memphis. They don't have a top 70 win. They're not going to the tournament.
That is probably an accurate prediction. I don't think it could be a statement of fact on December.
It's not a statement of fact, but there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that this is an NCAA tournament team.
I agree with you, and I'm surprised by that. Like, I just don't expect Chris Beard to have bad basketball teams, right?
Or just I've watched them play 4, maybe 5 times so far this season. I think 4. I watched the NC State game, watched the St. John's game, saw parts of the Miami. I think I saw the Memphis. Regardless, it's surprising how ineffective they are overall. Yes.
The good news is that there probably aren't 10 Ole Miss fans who care too much about it right now.
I know. At this point, honestly, you're not wrong about that. Rebs got it done on the gridiron over the weekend. Let's pivot into the Big East. We got a few things to talk about here. UConn did not have too much issue with DePaul, although Silas Demery yacked in the middle of the game. I always hate to see that. Hopefully he's feeling better. Seton Hall won at Providence Friday night. Your Seton Hall Pirates right now, 11-1. Good on Shaheen Holloway. By far the lowest NIL budget in the league. Only loss is by 2 in Maui to USC. Good stuff out of them. And we have a game coming up in just 2 days. We'll get to that before the end of the show. But that was quite clearly a notable result for the Big East on the hardwood. And then before I get to the news element to this, Nova beat Wisconsin. Nova's 9-2. That's Seton Hall's next opponent. We'll get there soon.
Yeah.
But we have a headline to talk about here. Ed Cooley, Georgetown lost at home to Xavier over the weekend, and Ed Cooley, in a fit of rage, chucked a water bottle, and he meant to throw the water bottle. What he didn't mean to do was to hit a mother and a child, and he immediately apologized. I think he opened his post-game press conference by apologizing for it. Earlier on Sunday, Georgetown suspended Cooley for a game. Here's his quote. "I am deeply sorry for my actions during last night's game and sincerely apologize to the I'm just going to spell it out. Nyahkoon family, whom I have known for years and regard as my own family. My conduct was unacceptable and does not represent who I am or the leader I strive to be. I want to also apologize to the Georgetown community, team, fans, the league, and my family. I take full responsibility for my actions and their consequences. I will learn from this experience to ensure it never happens again. End quote. Not a good visual, quite clearly. I would argue the 1-game suspension is not enough. The game is Coppin State on Monday. You could have easily justified, and frankly, the Big East sent out a 2-sentence statement that I thought fell short of it. You can't have this. I know that Ed Cooley doesn't have a history of throwing water bottles into the crowd, but Coppin State is 364 out of 365 teams at KenPom, folks. I could coach the Hoyas to a win on Monday night against Coppin State. Sitting him for the home game against St. John's on New Year's Eve, I think, would have been the more appropriate action for the university. And falling short of that, the league would have had the power to do so. So I'm not going to stand on protest here and go marching down Main Street, but I thought the punishment was actually a little too slight. And frankly, I don't think that Cooley would have objected to it. I know he knows that he messed up. He owned it immediately, but you can't have this. And I understand the Big East fans who I can't help but imagine say, if this was another coach in our league, the entire world would be on fire right now. It's not. Don't play whataboutism. It's Cooley. It's Georgetown. They're not relevant. It's the action should dictate the punishment more than necessarily the reputation here, because Cooley has no background or priors with it. That being said, I would have sat him down for 2 games, including the game against St. John's.
Nothing makes me roll my eyes more than the tweet you get from somebody like, if this was somebody else, you'd have done something else. Like, bro, I'm watching Pluribus right now. All right. I'm not paying attention to anything you're talking about. You know what I do? I talk about whatever I want to talk about when I want to talk about it. I don't keep score. I just talk about what interests me. Yeah, it was in the wrong, clearly. I mean, that could have been so bad. I mean, yes. It's a little kid. Like, nobody was going to die, but like you throw a bottle hits in the wrong way. Little kid's got a bloody nose. I mean, the visual could have been much worse than it was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you figure out how long somebody's supposed to serve a suspension for something like this. It's, we're seeing a lot of weird interactions between, and that I should be clear, this wasn't an interaction. It wasn't like the little kid was heckling at Cooley.
No, it was not.
This was just a coach being pissed off because he's lost 4 of his past 7. I think.
Just slam the scorer's table, break a clipboard, bite into a towel, do what you got to do. Don't
throwing bottles at kids. All right. I know it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional throw, not intentionally at anybody. I don't know how to gauge those things, but just this whole thing feels off. Like like him leaving his alma mater and hometown, and then it's not. It certainly hasn't popped. It didn't take him long to get Louisville back popping. But for some reason, it's taken longer at Georgetown, and I know it was promising earlier in the year, but it has turned on him already. And, I would imagine there's some Georgetown fans asking big questions and some Providence fans laughing really loudly, and the whole thing just feels off to me. It doesn't mean that it can't be fixed.
Yeah.
But the karma around that felt weird while it was unfolding, and it has never felt right since he's took over, or it's never been right since he took over.
Yeah. Providence fans, and they're 7-6 this season too. They lost at home at Seton Hall. They couldn't get over against Butler and double OT. There's a whole lot going on there. By the way, it was not a good weekend if you are a college basketball coach and your last name ends in Uli, because Kansas assistant Joe Dooley was pulled over for allegedly driving under the influence. Bill Self has suspended him for 3 weeks. So his punishment now, to be clear, it's a much bigger error in judgment. They're both awful, but Kansas got out, I would say, relatively in front of it immediately. I would argue a lot of people didn't even know this happened unless you're really dialed into Kansas and the local police blotter there. But yes, Dooley has been suspended and he'll sit for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. I don't want to conflate the stories. They're similar in the sense that they're both suspensions of coaches. One is an act of frustration that crosses the line you just cannot cross, and the other is a bad decision, probably induced by the product you were putting into your body. As a drinker, I can tell you, you can get a little loose with your decisions the more you have in you, and smart people with good intentions can make mistakes. That's not to excuse it. There's Ubers out there. He made a mistake. He's paying a price, but I think they're Ed is frustrated and acted out in a way that crossed the line, and Joe just made a poor decision that probably on a Saturday night in the United States of America, unfortunately, sadly, a lot of people make. And just fortunate, the worst thing that came of it was that he was only suspended and only, caught, because these things can get bad. And not only can you hurt yourself, but innocent people die every day in this country because of people making decisions like this. I'm not trying to pile on or be judgy. I'm just saying we all have to be better about this type of stuff.
Let's end on a good note here. Yeah, well, if you're watching, you can see one of maybe the best thing about the weekend, honestly, and that is longtime friends Tom Izzo and Greg Kampe. They play each other every season. Back when Oakland transitioned to Division I, Izzo and Michigan State played at Oakland's campus that first season. These two are the longest tenured active men's Division I head coaches in the game. And a year ago, they both wore identical Grinch sweaters. And here you've got Izzo with the naughty list on the left and Kampe with the nice list on the right. My little guy was playing a basketball rec game when this one started, but I did have one earbud in. And I want to say that the broadcast said that Izzo has a neighbor who made these, which is awesome. Really, really cool. The ironic part about it was that Kampe actually had some choice words for the official during this game. Oakland played Michigan State really tough on Saturday. Debo has audio, some nice words after the fact. These two do a joint press conference after this game. It's one of my favorite things about college hoops every December. So, Debo, can we hear this? This might be 45 and 50 seconds or so. Here's what Kampe had to say after the game on Saturday.
I mean, what he's done for me in our program, I'm getting choked up because it's true. He's helped me raise. I got really good players because I was able to pace them, and he's the one who helped me do that. He on his own came down and did an event twice now for me that I've raised close to $500,000. And having someone who I respect, you've heard me say often, he's the best coach in the game, and I say that, and I mean it. But having someone, we've come the same path, we believe in the same things, and to be able to talk to, what you guys don't know is about 5 hours from now he's going to call me and he's going to tell me what we have to do to win. And I can't wait for that call because I want to know what he thinks. But to have that is this relationship for me is the single most important relationship I've had in my professional career.
Really, really cool stuff. Izzo also had some other good stuff. I just seek out the Tom Izzo, Greg Kampe press conference on YouTube or whatever.
Those two guys are and I'm sure Greg has seen this. I just happened to have Sports Center on late last night. Everybody fell asleep, and I was just sort of unwinding the long day of trash. So I just had it on, honestly updating top 25 and 1 and watching. And Scott went out of his way to really heap praise on Greg and Tom, but especially Greg. And I just hope people know that. Oakland getting that big win in the tournament a few years ago, I think put him on a bigger stage than perhaps he had ever been and allow people to see the personality and the man. But you and I have known that guy for a long time. And, maybe we don't, coaches from his league don't get a lot of attention, but every person who does this for a living that I know of knows Greg Kampe and likes Greg Kampe. And, and the relationship between those two men is special and sweet. And one of my favorite things I've ever done, just to echo some of the stuff Greg said, as an assignment, was spend 2-3 days with Tom Izzo on the recruiting trail. We were together every minute of the day, planes, cars, dinners, lunches, breakfast, the whole deal. And as I've said before, after a while, you run out of basketball stuff to talk about. So tell me about the championship team. I think this was before I worked with Mateen Cleaves, but if I had been working with Mateen Cleaves, then I'd been tell me about recruiting Mateen. I love him, all that stuff. After a while, you run out of things to say. I mean, you're with each other 15 hours a day. So you just start talking, and suddenly we're just two guys talking like husbands and fathers. And it was just a glimpse into his heart, into his mind, into the way he thinks, what makes him tick. And I don't think that Tom and I agree on every single topic in the world or even in basketball. But man, that guy's at the top of my list. He is a reminder that I don't have to see eye to eye with everybody on every single topic in this world to know that I love that guy on a personal level. And I know he's a great friend and a great person to so many people. And to hear Greg Kampe talk about that in a way that is, I don't know, a way that's able to get heard by the masses after a game against Michigan State. I thought that was great because there's a whole bunch of people with stories like that about Tom Izzo. And he's been a real special person in this sport for a long time. And you can tell that by the relationships he has within the sport.
It's just always a constantly funny juxtaposition or contrast with that Izzo and the guy who is just looking like the vein is going to pop from his throat by the under 16 of the first half. It's incredible. And it's such a fun little bonus for college hoops that we get this game every year. I mean, they look as ridiculous as they do endearing in Christmas sweaters, but it is such a net positive, and that is all Kampe. Kampe has pushed that. Now, they've done this, I want to say, 5 or 6 times now. Each year, it gets better and better. This was the best one yet. Just the very idea that Izzo's rocking the naughty list version, and then Kampe's just giving the dap and the fist pump to the rough on his sweater with the nice list. It was awesome. And to do the joint press conference, that's wonderful. For as long as, and I don't know if Izzo he's not retiring after this season. I would be genuinely shocked. I don't know if he's got 2, 3, 4, or 5 more years. He's always going to make sure that Michigan State schedules Oakland at some point in December near Christmas. And that's just a really positive thing. So and on a very busy weekend with a lot of really good results and notable teams and stuff, I know MSU Oakland doesn't flicker the radar the way that it should, but because those guys are such lifelong, genuinely close friends, and they're willing to poke fun at themselves and say, let's go out there and look ridiculous and go coach our teams. It's awesome. I love it. I love it every year. And this always happens, by the way, just a few days removed from Izzo. The fact that college basketball has one of its greatest coaches knows how to play the damn accordion, and every year he busts that thing out. He's got his readers on, dropped to the bottom of his nose. He's playing these same 6 Christmas songs every single year. I think it's incredible. Like, imagine John Shire like busting out the accordion and ripping through some of the greatest Hanukkah songs that are out there. It's just an amazing visual. Like, you could never imagine that happening, but Izzo does it every year, and I love to see it. And I love that you rebooted your computer, and I didn't have to finish out the show solo, because I would have veered off into breaking down the play that got the game to overtime, the DJ Moore catch that set up the game winner, all of that stuff.
Okay, so just because I missed all of this,
okay,
but I do want to relive it with you for just a second, because I was exhausted, and I don't care other than it was a football game between rivals, and my buddy and co-worker loves them to death, so I want you to be happy, so I'm in there with you. And I actually have lots of friends who are Bears fans. The Bears, I've said this before, are a little bit like the Mets, a major market franchise, had like one nice thing in the 80s. It was a big thing, and people have just latched onto it forever, and it's been mostly miserable since. So I understand Bears fans. Like, I think Bears fans probably understand Mets fans. So I get home, and as I'm following the game, just sort of like watching the score, it feels like it's okay, this is over. That's too bad. And then I don't know if I heard, and the Bears got the ball back, and I'm like, okay, boom, rush, turn it on.
Probably heard when they recovered the onside kick, which I think it was the 4th or 5th one the entire season that's been recovered. It's a near impossible play in the modern NFL.
So then you get to overtime, and now I've got my guys in there, and it's a football game, and it's and so it's big drama, and I just love the final play, not necessarily because he hit it. There was something about that ball just hanging in the air where it's just like, if you could pause it, you're like, this could be one of the greatest moments in Bears history. This could end the game right here. But I don't know. Let's watch it together. It reminded me a little bit. Tell me if this makes sense to you. Game 7 of the World Series. Bases loaded, bottom 9, 2 outs. Ernie Clements up and puts the ball in the air. And the first thing you see is the left fielder running at it. And it's like, oh, wow, this ball is in the air, men are running, and if it's caught, we'll play some more. But if it's not, the whole season's over. Wow, let's watch this. And that's what that felt like, just in reverse. If it's caught, the game's over, and if it's not, we'll keep playing. But it was like you almost got to register all of that while the ball was still in the air. Do I sound crazy? This is what it felt like.
You don't. That throw by Williams is instantly one of the most iconic plays in the history of the franchise. But the 4th and 4 to get it to overtime, which happened after the onside kick recovery to Ja'Day Walker, who was only even in the game because Roma Dunze and Luther Burden were both out, both wideouts, didn't play in the game. Just real quick, and we can wrap the show. I trust me, I could go 25 minutes on the Bears, but I'm not going to do that to our audience. So I get home, as I mentioned before earlier, like I had my phone off. I just wanted to watch it from the start and fast forward through the commercials, all this stuff. And I'm watching it play out, and I'm like, they just can't score. Like, they stopped Green Bay in the red zone, but it's one of those things where if you're watching the game in real time, and you kind of can come and go as you please. I'm watching it on a delay, trying to catch up to real time. And it could have been understandable. I was never going to do it, but just you get through midway through the third quarter and you're just like, all right, this is just a garbage game. Like, the Chicago can't score. The wind is nuts. But I kept going. My wife, she went to bed. I was like, just stay up, just watch it with me. You never know what's going to happen, because she knew it was 6-3, I think, by the time I got home. So, but she didn't tell me. But she didn't know anything after that. She's like, I'll watch it in the morning, whatever. I'll tap out. I was like, fine, whatever. So they recover the onside kick, which I just can't believe. At this point, I don't care if I wake up my family. And they get it to overtime. They get the touchdown. Now, my youngest, I still have to wake him up every night, make sure, it doesn't wet the sheets and all that stuff. And he's just about there all the way, but we still like to do it. So I wake him up and I was like, hey, you want to watch the game's in overtime? I had paused it. And I think I was about 15 minutes. I think by the time I paused overtime, I think in real time, the game was ending. I was like 10 to 12 minutes behind, but I don't know that, obviously. I'm like, hey, buddy, you want to watch? He's like rubbing his eyes. He doesn't even know what he's saying. I was like, I'll carry you downstairs. 7 years old. Gets under the blanket, sitting on the couch with me. And there's the fumble for Green Bay on the 4th and 1. The play before that, the stop on 3rd down is just, there's like 9 outrageous plays. The fact that Santos hit the 51-yarder and the wind was nuts. But I was like, you know what? I don't know if they're going to win or not, but I got a really good feeling now that they got it to overtime. So I got to have someone in my family watch this with me. So I bring them downstairs. We watch it. Touchdown. Great. Then I wake up. I'm screaming. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if I wake up my family. This is the most rewarding regular season win of my life, because the Bears never win these games against the Packers. It never happens. It does not happen. And woke up my older son, and then I popped into the bedroom, told my wife, Bears won. I can't believe it. I can't believe you went to bed. She mumbled something like, happy for you. See you in the morning. So it was awesome. Wonderful experience. This is why, honestly, this is why you invest yourself as a fan. I am totally prepared for the Bears to not win a playoff game. I hope for it to happen. If it does, whatever. Ahead of schedule, nights like that are why it's worth it. People that watch this pod, listen to the show, you've got your college team. I don't have a college basketball team. The Bears are my team. So I fully identify with everyone that listens to this show and gets so invested. You get so happy when we talk about your team. You get pissed off if we go after your team. We just kind of say it like it is. And that was a wonderful, unforgettable experience. I was so buzzing from it all. One, I had to go. Then I was like, Duke lost. How in the world did that happen? So I texted our buddy Borzello, who was at the game, who was not happy that the game went to overtime and the Bears won as the post-game pressers were happening. Oh, by the way, wild night for John Shire. He's a massive Bears fan, but he didn't see any of it because his team lost against Texas Tech. So I watched all the Duke Texas Tech game, and then I watched HQ highlights. I watched SVP, all of it. I didn't go to bed till like 2:40. I was just roaring. Just a wonderful, unforgettable night. And yeah, I was not getting out of the show with talking about these guys just a little bit. Wonderful to see them in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens from here. Next week's pod, by the way, folks, will be earlier. Bears Niners Sunday Night Football. We will be done before that game kicks off. The story about your wife, and I know she was just sleeping, not being dismissive, but like I get all these golf videos that just pop into my Instagram, and there's this one video that made me laugh. It's like some guy like chips in to win the member guest at his club, and the place is just going nuts, right? And like the first comment was like, and just trust, his wife could not care less. There are these things in life that we get so excited about, yeah,
like a Juan Soto signing. And I'll be like, the Mets signed Juan Soto. And she's like, well, that's sweet. That's sweet, baby. I'm happy for you. What position does he play?
Exactly. My wife is, and I know you're not saying this. I've confirmed she's a Bears fan. She's not a Bears fan at 11:55 at night. That's right.
Yeah. Like my wife will put on the shirt and like go to the games and watch them if they're on. But like if they're, a West Coast road trip against the Padres, she ain't gonna be there for the last pitch. Yeah. Hey, did we ever look ahead to the next 2 days?
We didn't, but if you know what, that's right, we didn't. Let's real quick take it away. What do people need to know? There actually is one really, really nice game on Monday night people needed to be dialed into.
Yeah, on Monday, Missouri against Illinois. Both those teams are like, nice records, NCAA tournament-ish stuff. So, and Illinois is obviously ranked, and so that's a nice rivalry stuff. Davidson at Kansas. I think that's a rematch, Elite Eight game, 2008. NCAA tournament. So those are two, I guess, somewhat notable things on Monday. Tuesday, we referenced this earlier, Villanova at Seton Hall. Kevin Willard returns to Seton Hall after coaching there for 12 years. He's now 2 stops removed from Seton Hall. But what's that going to look and sound like? Do you have a sense?
Good question, actually. I don't know. I think Seton Hall fans are so thrilled with the start here. I don't know if they'll have too much room for some jeering, but nevertheless, that is a way more relevant game than we could have possibly imagined. Villanova and Seton Hall have rightful claims right now as 2 of the 3 best teams in the Big East.
I saw Stormy Cyclone ask what my shirt says.
What does it say?
Keep them
away from me. I actually don't understand the reference.
It's about no escalators.
Oh, okay. Honestly, it is.
No.
That'd be way better if it was.
I believe it would be properly referred to as a Kendrick Lamar t-shirt.
Okay, I wondered if that was
keep the lames. Keep the lames. Me and Dot want y'all to keep the lames away from us. All right. We need everybody. We need everybody to keep the lanes away from us and no escalators. I've had just about enough. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. In all seriousness, I was like about to, if you thought Ed Cooley threw a water bottle, buddy, you have no idea what I was about to do to this room. All right. I was so mad. I don't know why that happened, but I hope you laughed about it. And
turn it off. And there you go.
Yeah. So now I know. Next time I start glitching, I just need to reset myself. And that's probably
yes.
I could probably attach that to my life in a variety of ways. I feel like there's sometimes where I get a little glitchy. I might need to just hit reset. Sometimes I don't think I unplug myself enough. So I need to start working on that.
We have a Christmas annual mailbag coming. Now we are going to tape this later this week. I have a lot of questions ready. If you want to try and get one in at the buzzer, we'll take it. I don't know if we have a holiday themed one yet, so I'll certainly take those, but we got a lot of them. That is going to Debo, you can hop on real quick here. Let's let the audience know so when they can expect it. This will be our next show, by the way. We have a light slate. So we're going to tape the Christmas mailbag. That will not be a live YouTube situation. You can watch it after the fact. Are we going to run this on Christmas Eve and slip it under the tree, or are we going to run this the day after Christmas, Debo?
Plan is day after Christmas. People got stuff going on. We're gonna hit this on Friday.
Okay, so next show will be Friday, and we'll have a goodie mailbag. We got some good correspondence as well that I've already lined up for that show. So you can look for that later this week. I always love doing that one every single year.
And just for just for clarity's sake,
yes,
Josh did not get laid off. We're not running through a whole new producer already. All right. He's just on vacation. He's just enjoying time with his family. He'll be back. I do love the fact that he just got this job. And this tends to happen. You get a job, and then, hey, just so you know, I got this huge vacation planned in like 2 months. Is that cool? So I like the fact that he just got here and he's taken like 5 shows in a row off. More power to you, Josh. It's all good. Meantime, I'm talking every day. Every day. When do I get to take some time off?
Hey. You got to take some time off on this very show. What are you talking about?
I took like 15 minutes off earlier. I feel refreshed. I actually do feel refreshed.
We will not talk to you before Friday. So happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. If you're listening to this, you obviously hear the Christmas bed music. I always make sure I get that in for you on this episode every single year. We appreciate all of you so very, very, very much. Please get some time in with your loved ones. And however you're listening to this show, maybe you saved it for your Christmas jaunt to go see your friends and family. We appreciate that. We will have you covered for the Friday after Christmas. GP, you want to wrap it? Or I honestly feel like I should. You know what? Parrish, I got it.
Go ahead. Let me just sit. You know what? I'm going to turn my mic off.
There we go. Turn your mic off. Appreciate everyone. Be sure to rate, subscribe to the podcast. Make that your holiday present to us. And until then, we'll talk to you on Friday. Have a wonderful holiday season. Get some hot cocoa. We'll talk to you in a few days. Thank you so much.